Good afternoon, Yankees fans. I'm your host, Thomas Carinante. Today, Adam Weinrib is out, but we have a replacement for him just for the day, not forever. Max Mallow is with us. He's the managing editor of Double Tap, property of Minute Media. Minute Media also owns Fansided. So here we are getting everybody together. Max is a Mets fan, so we're going to talk Yankees Mets. And before I introduce Max, we have a few other things to go over here quickly as we run down the list. A lot of people have been asking if I can solo handle a pod with a guest. Adam is usually the driving force here, but I think I'll be able to handle it. Maybe with 10 live viewers, I think we could do it. We're going to go over Yankees Blue Jays, quick series recap because we don't want to dwell on the bad vibes and all the stuff that's been resulting from that. It hasn't been fun, but we had a glimmer of hope over the weekend with this. Aaron Boone got pissed as shit, and that was awesome. Gerrit Cole nearly starting beef with Alek Manoah on the field. Need more of that. Simply need more of that if we're going to contend and if we're going to avoid these teams from breathing down our neck as September approaches. And then, of course, we got the Subway Series preview. Folks, be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review, mailbag question, hit us up on Twitter. It's the Yanks Go Yard Podcast. We're having a good time. We're ripping this team left and right, but we want things to get better. So in the meantime, guys, warm welcome for Max Mallow, managing editor of Double Tap. Max, how you doing, man?
Hey, Tomasi, thanks for having me on, brother. You know me. We're good friends. Obviously, Adam and I are good friends as well. We just love talking baseball. And we love talking New York baseball. And there's no better time to do it with the second Subway Series of the year coming up at Yankee Stadium. Hopefully, rain kind of holds off. Seen some reports online that maybe we'll be able to squeak out a game today, which would be great. Obviously, I want to see Scherzer again. I want to see Jake tomorrow. If it's a doubleheader tomorrow, so be it. But, what's been going on this year with the Yankees, you can't ignore it, right? Ungodly start. As a Mets fan, I've been loving this season. A lot of hate online. I'm sure we'll talk about that in both fan bases, right? But at the rate that we both started the year at, it's, for me, it's hard. I think it's the best Mets team I've seen of my lifetime. Obviously we had the World Series in 2015. The 06 team was sick. 2007 was just a depressing nightmare that I tried to just block out completely of my childhood. But this team's been great, and it's hard, as a baseball fan and even as a Mets fan, to not know what's been going on in the Bronx for the first 2/3 of the season. It's been unreal. And then to see what's going on now, we've been talking a lot, and just it's crazy. I'm excited to talk Yankees baseball. This Blue Jays series, which I had my eye on, was insane. And I'm excited to talk about the Subway Series as well.
Yeah, let's pop into this Blue Jays series. And by the way, a quick note on the Mets. I've been watching. I'm a Mets sympathizer. I'm a Yankees fan who roots for the Mets. I have friends that are Mets fans. So why have it be unenjoyable? I like to root for the Mets. I pull for them, and this is a different Mets team. I watch a lot of Mets every single year. That comeback yesterday against the Phillies, that is something the Mets of yesteryear do not do. Various other victories that they've had this year are very uncharacteristic. So the vibe in Queens has been changing. It's been for the better. It is very Yankees-esque, but maybe it'll be Mets-esque, and the Yankees will slip back into oblivion. But 4-game series against Toronto. Yankees had that deflating series loss against the Red Sox last weekend. They come in, they lose that Sunday night game 3-0. Michael Wacha pitched, destroyed the Yankees. It was a 2-hour and 15-minute finish. The Yankees roll into a series with the Rays. They lose the first one 4-0. They lose the second one 3-1. So at this point, they had scored 1 run in 3 games. They come into that series finale against the Rays. And that one we thought kind of turned the season around. You saw it, Max. Josh Donaldson's walk-off grand slam after Chapman gives up 3 runs in the 10th. They're down 7-4. Donaldson pokes one over the right field seats with the bases loaded. Yankees win 8-7. You think it's a springboard for momentum. Hold on a second, though. Blue Jays come to the Bronx. This is essentially the Yankees' chief competition right now. We've all seen the Rays this year. This is not a typical Rays team that we've seen since like 2019. So I don't think anybody's necessarily scared of them. The Blue Jays have the bats. The Blue Jays have the pitching. I know they're tied with the Rays right now, but this is more of the team that's going to challenge the Yankees down the stretch. Jays come in series opener with their worst pitcher, Jose Barrios. They win 9-2. Then next game, Kevin Gausman versus Jameson, Tyone. The Yankees were the favorites in that game. It was a fake favorite, though. It was like minus 112 and minus 108. Don't know how they were the favorites. They were, I think, up until this point, they were 3-13 in the month of August. So I don't know how you list the Yankees as favorites against anyone unless it's one of the worst teams in the league. Yankees lose that one 4-0. Then Gerrit Cole start on Saturday, which we're going to talk about briefly because Gerrit Cole unraveled, and then we're going to have these discussions about aces in New York, what they can handle. First of all, Yankees offense scoring 1 run off Mitch White, absolutely egregious. However, that does not absolve Gerrit Cole of what he's done and the struggles that he's had. This is a start where your ace, and Max, you know a lot about aces because you got 2 of them, and you've had Jacob deGrom for years. This is the start where your ace just simply needs to go 7 shutout. That's just it. And in my opinion, I don't think the Yankees would have won this game unless Gerrit Cole went 8 shutout. But Gerrit Cole was, up until this point, I don't know if you were paying close enough attention, was throwing a no-hitter heading into the 5th inning. He had walked 1 batter. That was it. He was mowing down everybody. Then the 5th inning came, and he approaches the bottom of the Jays lineup. And I don't really know how this happened. He gave up a double to Santiago Espinal, which, Santiago Espinal has been playing good this year, so someone's going to get a hit off you, whatever. Then he walks Danny Jansen, the backup catcher who's hitting 197 on the year, which to me seems to get spooked with a runner in scoring position. You just have to attack that hitter. There's no way that's at all ace-like performance. Especially when you're the highest paid pitcher in the league. That's the hitter you have to get out. Then Jackie Bradley Jr., former Red Sox outfielder, comes up, pokes one into left field. Very tough play for Benintendi. 2-run double gives the Blue Jays the lead. And if you're a Yankees fan watching the Yankees this year, you will sit there and say, great, 1-run deficit in the month of August. That is the deficit. And now the game is over. That said, 2-1 lead. Gerrit Cole had already coughed it up. With his mistakes, then he kind of fell victim to shaky defense. Raimel Tapia, the Jays' top of the order, comes up after that. He pokes a ball to shortstop. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa double clutches and then bounces the throw to first. I don't know. It was ruled an infield single, so it was what it was. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. reaches on an infield single because Cole fielded the ground ball that was hit to him and tripped and fell and wasn't able to get him out. And then Alejandro Kirk hits a double into left center. My opinion, I don't know if any other fans felt this way, was Andrew Benintendi took a bad route on that ball. Dove in the outfield like a total idiot. 2 runs come in. It's 4-1 at this point. 4-1 means you might as well just sim the game to the bottom of the ninth at this point because they are not scoring the runs that they need to. So at this point, Gerrit Cole finishes his start. He ends up going 6 innings. However, it ain't good enough. You can't pitch 6 innings, give up 4 runs on 5 hits and 2 walks after giving up 1 walk in 4 innings of play. And that at that point, the Jays had took the first 3 games of the series. The division lead coming into the series was 10 games. Now it's 7. Now you're crapping your pants heading into Sunday, the finale of a 4-game set. So, I know Mets fans have had a lot to say about Gerrit Cole, Max. And as someone who you've seen various Jacob deGrom outings just be fully wasted over the years. I want to know what the true logical Mets baseball fans' view of Gerrit Cole is. A lot of Yankees fans are very critical of him, which is understandable. A lot of Yankees fans kind of defend him blindly. I don't get the extreme dichotomy here, but I want an outside perspective, someone who has seen this type of pitching, someone who knows what the ace needs to bring to the staff. How are you feeling about Gerrit Cole?
Yeah, I mean, look, with Gerrit Cole, one, he's going to be, no matter what, always thrown into a conversation with comparisons to Jake, to, in the past, Noah, to whoever, right? Obviously, Max coming to New York this year. And with how many starting pitchers were on the market this offseason, or this past offseason, which, I mean, it's kind of weird to go and think that far back, right? But considering that the offseason was so just toxic in the air, in the media, on social media, of just like Donaldson and IKF, those are your 2 big moves. And then you go off to the pace that you start at, and you're like, well, maybe we don't know what we're talking about, and the Yankees are just a really good team, right? Yeah. It's it's always going to fall on Gerrit that he's just under more scrutiny. The sticky stuffs last year, the interviews, the post game, what was it this year with Billy Crystal, who delayed his start, and people were like, why is Gerrit complaining about Billy Crystal? It's just like, it's just going to fall under so much more scrutiny than any other pitcher will in baseball, right? If you pitch in New York. The thing to me is like, okay, I look at the Blue Jays series, and we know the Blue Jays have 3 big names in their rotation: Barrios, Gausman, and Manoa. And if those guys are going, they have a shot in any series. But if I'm the Yankees and I'm a Yankee fan and I'm looking at this team in this series, you have Nestor in game 4 and you have Cole in game 3. Who went game 1? Montas, right? So you look and you're like, okay, well, who knows what happens in game 1 and 2, but we have our ace. We have our $300+ million man, whatever the contract number was, right? Going in game 3. Yeah, 324. So you got him and you got Nestor going in game 2, who's been just, it's fun to watch Nestor pitch. If you're whoever you are, he's crazy, does strange stuff with his windups and his motions, but he's a fun guy to watch pitch, and he makes baseball fun and exciting. So you're like, okay, cool. Worst comes to worst, we get out of here with a split, and that's it. Right? But I don't know. Gerrit's a bit of a mystery. I don't want to say he can't necessarily handle the pressure, because I'm not watching every single Gerrit Cole start, but I feel like whenever his name comes up, it's a start in Detroit that goes really, really bad, and the defense behind him, and there's bloop hits, and there's infield singles, and all that type of stuff. I expect him to, do that. You got to go 6, 7, and you got to go shut out 1-run, 2-run ball at minimum, right? Especially against a team that I'm sure the Blue Jays looked at this Yankee series, come to town for 4, and they're like, okay, you know what? This is our time. If we're going to close the gap at all and make this a bit of a run for the last month and 10 days of the season, it has to start with this series. And I mean, credit to the Blue Jays, they played their baseball. We know their lineup has big names in it. They can hit the bombs, they can get those long rallies going. But yeah, I mean, it sucks because I look at Edwin Diaz, and I've dealt with Edwin Diaz for 2 years of Ed lose, and just it's never going to happen. And oh, hey, look, Edwin Diaz didn't blow the game this time, right? And now all the Mets fans are reaping the benefits of him being lights out this year, and him going from the guy that nobody liked to being the internet sensation, talking about on Pat McAfee and all that type of stuff. So I feel like, at least my perception of, say, the Yankee fan, you were Adam, it's just like, Gerrit, you go 7 shutty, we'll praise you. We will love you as the ace of this rotation. But it's just like, it just kind of keeps getting in his own way at times. And it's got to be frustrating because Jake doesn't really get in his own way. The offense gets in his way.
Yeah.
And we don't score runs for him. It hasn't so much happened with Max this year. That first Jake start back in Washington, I was like, here we go again. Like, he sold his soul to the devil to be the best pitcher of all time, and in exchange, we will never score runs with him, for him. But I feel like you want to praise Gerrit, you want to love Gerrit, and you want him to be good. But there are just things that come up where it's like, it's unavoidable. You got to talk about it, and it's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer the question for you. I don't think he can handle the pressure. I think that's the problem. You look at Gerrit Cole. My biggest thing before they signed Gerrit Cole to this monster deal was that Gerrit Cole never really shouldered the load of leading a pitching staff. Pittsburgh, you're in Pittsburgh. I don't really care what anybody says. You can be an ace in Pittsburgh. That is not the same thing as being an ace in a big market. And then he went to Houston, where he was second best to Justin Verlander. Played out of his mind, was arguably the Cy Young that year. If you really, I think it was 2019, 2019, if you really looked at the numbers and did the close comparison. But Justin Verlander was the guy there, and he had been the guy there for the year prior. And then you look at kind of how and then he's asked to come to the biggest market with the greatest spotlight and carry this pitching staff. So the task has not been easy for Gerrit Cole. But you look back on the signing and the way that the Yankees paid for him, and the countless other guys that they've passed on in off seasons prior, you're just like, this was the guy and this was the contract. Like, how do you spend this much money and believe it's a sure thing when you don't really have much evidence that it will be a sure thing? And the last 2 years of Cole, look, 2020 shortened season, he largely pitched great that year. he fell victim to untimely stuff. The home run to Austin Meadows in the playoffs. He was pitching great in that ALDS Game 5. The offense didn't pick him up. And the offense at times over his, I think I did the math like last week, in 17% of his starts this year, he's in ones that he's given up one or 0 runs. The offense has lost those games, or the Yankees have lost those games. So the offense is screwing Gerrit Cole to an extent. However, last year, Gerrit Cole had 7 starts where he gave up 3 or more runs in a single inning. This year, he has 4 starts of giving up 4 runs in a single inning, and that's the most of his career with any team. So talk about the sticky stuff all you want. I think we can all agree Gerrit Cole is still an ace-like performer. He still has the stuff to mow down opposing lineups, to be that, that ace starter in a playoff game, in a winner-go-home game. He's just yet to put it all together and fully prove it, which, time's ticking. He's not getting any younger. He still has to make that, kind of reputation for himself because he's yet to do it. And he's kind of later in his career. He's got, I don't know if he has a whole lot of prime left. I think he's 31 years old at this point. If I could just check baseball. Yeah. He's turning 32 very soon. So I don't know how much longer you never know how much longer it can last for these guys. But that's been my biggest beef with him so far. Like, you have the Billy Crystal thing. You have the constant getting your ass kicked by the Red Sox. You have giving up the untimely home run to Austin Meadows. I know you pitched largely a great game outside of that context, but what is the one memorable thing from that game outside of Aroldis Chapman blowing it in the bottom of the 8th to Mike Brasso? It's Gerrit Cole giving up that home run to Austin Meadows. And you have his career worst start against the Tigers this year, 1 2/3 innings, shortest start of his career, it was crazy. So it's this stuff that keeps building up, but he's got the most starts. He has the most innings pitched. He has the most strikeouts. So the talent is there. I think the mental edge needs to come through. And that's what Yankee fans are missing so far at this point. From an outsider looking in, I don't know if that's the vibe you get, but that's my spark notes of Gerrit Cole thus far.
The number one thing that would piss me off as a Yankee fan is the Red Sox starts. Like,
oh my God,
I don't care who you are. If I'm a Yankee fan and you're starting against the Red Sox and you're the ace, this big contract, you got to perform. That's it. Like, I need Max and Jake to perform against the Braves and the Phillies no matter what. Like, that's bare minimum. So that type of stuff would piss me off internally if he just kept getting tagged up every single time. Obviously, the playoffs last year were, an anomaly, or not an anomaly, but just like, that's baseball, right? Yeah. You can't really hang your hat on it or just wallow in your sorrows and be like, oh man, like all of that just for one game. Well, that's baseball, and we don't have to deal with that anymore because the playoff system is completely different now. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could say he can't stand the pressure. Maybe he'd benefit from having another big name in the rotation to kind of take some of that spotlight off of him.
Yeah.
Like, who expected Nestor to be this sick this year, right? And to, if he can maintain it down the stretch, because obviously he's going to career numbers and innings pitched and stuff like that. But, bringing in Montas, who was the last of that A's rotation to be traded away, right? Obviously, we got Bass at first, which was huge. Manoa went to the Padres, and everyone was like, well, will the Yankees make a move for Montas? And they did. It just happened to be at the trade deadline. And then you couple in all the anger that I saw from you and Adam being like, why is Monty going? Why are we getting rid of Monty? Yeah. This doesn't make any sense at all. And then obviously all the Domingo Germán stuff where it's just like, okay, what are we going to get out of him and everything else that goes on with Domingo Germán? I'm sure he feels like he's got to take a lot of the weight onto his shoulders. And couple that with just being, the ace for the New York Yankees, it's a lot. So I will give him that benefit of the doubt, but also at the end of the day, it's professional sport. You have to perform. If you're not coming to the ballpark as the ace for the New York Yankees to go 6, 7, 8, 9 shutty, whatever you're going to pitch, you have to put your team in a position to win no matter what in that role that you are in. So I get it. I relish the fact that as a Mets fan, I've always seen amazing starting pitching, especially in the last 5 to 6 years. Like the Harvey, Wheeler, Noah,
Yeah.
DeGrom, Matz. I mean, which rotation only pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 once in their entire time, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Pedro as a Met, Glavine, et cetera, et cetera. So it's got to suck, because I'm not saying that the Yankees haven't had amazing starting pitching, especially
They haven't.
2000s, 2010s. But even you grew up with
early,
Clemens and Burnett and.
Yeah, 2000s. I mean, look, you had 09 where they went and they splurged and it worked out for them. And then after that, it was kind of a disaster. And then Tanaka comes, and Tanaka was supposed to be better. And then he has the UCL tear. And then it's not the ace that you were envisioning. And it's not the staff that you were envisioning. So then you kind of lose, you lose steam. And the Yankees never had the depth that they needed. But I think a big element to pitching is the mental game. And this Yankees team constantly has issues with, dealing with the media or, evoking the proper emotions to kind of get out of the funk. A team who is on paper as good as the Yankees were. The Yankees started the season 50-17. You understand how good that is, people? 50-17, and they are 74-48 right now. So they had a leg up. If they didn't have that stretch in the beginning of the season, who knows where the hell they are at right now. And quite frankly, it's taken too long for people to kind of show, or players on this team or people in the organization to show the frustration, which we'll get to Cole in a minute. But first, after that Cole start on Saturday, came Aaron Boone, who was pissed. The night before, he comes out and he's talking about how the Yankees should be ticked off. And it's like, yeah, dude, of course they should be ticked off. They're playing the worst baseball of anybody after playing the best baseball of anybody. So you have a tale of two seasons here, and you didn't ride the high good enough, and now you're falling into this bottomless pit, and there's no escape. And you should have personalities on this team. You should have leaders on this team that stop something like this in its tracks. And that's why I was telling Max, guys, before we went live, that watching The Captain right now, if you guys have started watching The Captain on ESPN Plus, is disheartening, because you saw the team that Derek Jeter cultivated. You saw the culture that was there, and don't forget, the Yankees were bad for over a decade up until 1995. Very bad team. And Derek Jeter was able to kind of cultivate this winning mentality, and he had guys fall in line, and there is value to that. Joe Torre Derek Jeter talked about how Joe Torre let every player be themselves, and, he would have a system of checks and balances where, someone was getting out of hand, he would handle it. But otherwise, the roster was full of personalities. You had Darryl Strawberry on there, kind of being the enforcer. It was really cool stuff, and it's really cool stuff to watch. But now you're looking at the dichotomy of that and how the Yankees are kind of handling the success and the pressure this year. And it's night and day, and it's not fun to watch. But anyway, finally, Aaron Boone loses his cool. He slams his hand down on the press table, says, "It's right in front of us." And he gets mad for like 0.5 seconds, and then he just goes, he went bipolar, and now he's back, and he's like, "And it's right in front of us, and everything's fine, and everything's going to be good."
Right in front of us. We got to fix it.
Right in front of us. Flips out, levitates the water bottle. The memes up until this point have been absolutely hilarious. The one with what's that song by Gwen Stefani? That song with the bumps.
Oh, Hollaback Girl.
It's good.
Yeah, Hollaback Girl. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking tremendous. Anyway, the memes from that have been great. Will this light a fire under the Yankees? I have no idea, but they win the next game the next day, which was yesterday. Nestor Cortez was on the mound, and now I'm thinking, and this will be a podcast discussion for next episode, could Nestor Cortez be the Game 1 playoff starter? Probably worth discussing. If you need to get off to a fast start in a series, you absolutely need to win the Game 1. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe you face a lefty-heavy lineup and you determine that's the move. Anyway, Yankees win on Sunday. It is not without controversy, however, for the second day in a row. This one was Alek Manoah, who has largely had his way with the Yankees up until these last couple months, versus Nestor Cortez. Yankees get a huge hit from Andrew Benintendi, 2-run go-ahead homer. That ends up deciding the game. But earlier in the contest, Alek Manoah hit Aaron Judge with a pitch on the first pitch of the at-bat. and the Yankees were not happy about it. There was a runner on second, so it was a runner in scoring position situation. First base was open, so many were sitting there saying, oh, they obviously don't want to pitch the Judge, so maybe they hit him. Alek Manoah said he didn't mean to hit him. Him and Judge cleared it up, whatever, whether it was intentional or not. You could see why anybody on the Yankees would be upset about it. You hit the team's MVP, you hit the AL MVP at this very moment. And, you know, in a situation where the Yankees cannot afford to lose one more player. If they lose one more player, it's going to be a spiral for the ages. So Gerrit Cole leaps out of the dugout and starts yelling at Manoah's direction. He's got coaches and umpires blocking him from, you know, going closer onto the field. And then you have this situation in the post game where Cole's asked about it, 2-minute interview saying that, you know, the Yankees were getting buzzed frequently and it was unfair and it's, you know, not how you play the game, all understandable stuff. And then they asked Alek Manoah how he felt about Cole shouting at him. And Alek Manoah said, if Gerrit Cole wants to start something next time, he can walk past the Audi sign, which was the nice little advertisement on the field right before the foul line. So if Gerrit Cole really wanted to start something per Alek Manoah, he would have charged the field and done something. Yes, you're right, Alec. You are totally right about that. Is Gerrit Cole going to start a brawl after, you know, Aaron Judge was hit and the Yankees needed a win? I don't think so. I think he was trying to do just enough. And hey, I'm a big Gerrit Cole critic. I think this was awesome, even though he didn't incite, you know, a brawl, because it's funny. You watch the Armando Benitez footage from years ago and Darryl Strawberry would not let up. And he started that entire. Graham Lloyd comes out of the bullpen. Everything is hell breaking loose. So it was nice to see Gerrit Cole, who's usually reserved, usually stumbles over his words in post games and isn't exactly inspiring, come out and he's talking shit to Manoah. So I'm cool with it. If Alek Manoah thinks that the next step is Gerrit Cole fighting him, then so be it. Also, if you're taking any exception to Cole's words, you can also go closer to the dugout. You know, we've seen Amir Garrett do it, charge the dugout and fight 3 people. So, you know, if you feel like you're being subjected to words you don't want to hear, then feel free, Alec. You have the floor. Funny enough, though, about this encounter, Max, I don't know if you saw earlier in the year, Jays were at Yankee Stadium. By the way, Alec just might be a little bit whiny because the last 3 games he's pitched against the Yankees, the Blue Jays have lost. They won the first 3 he pitched, and now he's in a little bit of a spiral. So April 14th, Yankees-Jays at the stadium. Luis Severino's on the mound. First inning, he hits Lourdes Gurriel Jr. with a pitch. Completely nothing like obvious, nothing intentional. It was just a hit by pitch. Alek Manoah was chirping from the dugout, saying, you know, defending Gurriel Jr., who, by the way, is like the 5th or 6th best hitter on the Blue Jays. You know, he's not Aaron Judge. So Alek Manoah is, you know, chirping for us in a situation that is of much lesser magnitude. And then Luis Severino looks over and he essentially is like, all right, dude, let's go. Let's go. Gerrit Cole pops out of the dugout. He starts yelling at the Blue Jays dugout, starts talking shit. Manoah doesn't do anything. Manoah sits there, doesn't move a muscle. So Manoah is going to, I guess, conveniently forget about the fact that he incited trash talking 3 months ago, didn't respond when he was called out by 2 players, and now is faulting or, you know, talking more trash to Gerrit Cole after, you know, everybody's went into their respective clubhouses, trying to incite some sort of, you know, build the tension up more. I don't know what his end game is, but you had that incident in April and it's like, dude, you're phony. You're a fake tough guy. Come on. I mean, what are you trying to do here? So at the very least, the positives I got from this series, even though there are none, the Yankees lost the series. They lost 3 out of 4. They lost 2 games on the division lead. It's 8 now instead of 10. You have Aaron Boone getting pissed and you have Gerrit Cole, you know, ready to ride or die at this point. Because of the frustration that's boiling over. And maybe this awakens something in the Yankees. I don't know. But you tell me, man, you've been watching the Mets this year. There's clearly been a shift in culture. There's been a shift in attitude. There's been a shift in morale. How has, you know, the Steve Cohen era, has it enlightened guys? Has there been, you know, have there been more fun quotes? Are there players speaking up more? Is there, you know, a shorter leash for unacceptable performances? Is there a fun celebration of victories? Whatever it is, tell me, because with the Yankees, it seems like they don't celebrate the wins, you know, emphatic enough. And then they let these long stretches of play leak into their DNA and continue much longer than they have to. And I'm not getting that vibe from the Mets. So I don't know if things have changed over there.
I mean, year 2 compared to year 1 is a complete different just team. And I mean, you would expect that. I mean, the offseason that we had, Scherzer, Bassett, Marte, Canna, Escobar, and then the moves that we made at the trade deadline with Vogelback and Naquin, Naquin was my favorite pickup from the get-go, even though I love Vogie. Darren Ruff. Last year we were hanging our team chemistry is great 2021 banners. Like it was a bunch of talk about how our vibe in the clubhouse is great. And we had, last year, you talk about the Manoa Severino stuff and Cole, Alvarado and Dom Smith went at it last year. And Dom Smith was like, you can meet me in the tunnel. And
I remember that.
And I'm like, fuck yeah, Dom, like, go for it. Like, let's make the Phillies Mets rivalry like spicy again. Cause it was dying. It was just like two teams who were just watching the Braves walk away with division title after division title. But this year it all boils down to me for Buck. Like there's no season that we're having this year without Buck. It's the first time since I love Terry Collins, but like Willie Randolph, where like I looked at a manager in the clubhouse, I'm like, cool, like I trust that guy to lead the team. And I'm a Jets fan too, and I haven't loved the Jets head coach since Rex Ryan. Like I know what it's like to watch bad managers or coaches of professional teams, and Buck is the X factor all year long, putting people in the position to succeed, getting huge performances out of people that you would not expect. Like we took 3 or 4 from the Phillies and we lost a David Peterson game, but we won a game started by Trevor Williams, who's been awesome as a long man out of the pen, and Jose Butto making his major league debut. And the Phillies had Kyle Gibson, Aaron Nola, and Zach Wheeler going after we just lost 3 or 4 from the Braves, where we lost Carrasco and Tyone in the second inning in back-to-back games, and we lost a Jake start. I'm like, great, this is it. Like, this is where the spiral starts to happen. We're going to lose 3 or 4 here, then we're going to lose 3 or 4 here, and then it's going to be half a game lead. Who knows what happens? We don't play the Braves till the end of the year. But that's not the team with Buck. And when I look at Boone and going back to the whole slamming his hand on the desk, and it's right there in front of us. I look at Boone, and whenever I see Boone trend, he's either yelling at umpires, arguing balls and strikes, or he's got some kind of post-game press conference going on. And you and I both know, and all sports fans know, but especially in New York, winning shuts everybody up. You win, nobody chirps, nobody complains about anything, et cetera, et cetera. I've complained about Buck's in-game management maybe once or twice this year. One of the games I was at, we were getting stomped by the Brewers. I'm like, Buck, what are you doing? Tell me, I haven't watched every Yankee game this year, but have there been decisions where you've heavily criticized Boone? I know the front office, and I listened to the past couple episodes, like the front office bullpen management is like the Marinaccio stuff is kind of inexcusable. But like in terms of like in-game management for the first half of the season, has there been anything that's like super egregious to the point where you're like, why is this guy still here? Because we all thought he'd be fired at the end of last season.
Yeah. I mean, I think last year you could sit here and you can count double-digit games that Aaron Boone was at fault for the Yankees losing. This year, I mean, I've been overly critical about Aaron Boone for now. I haven't been critical this year, but the last 2.5 years, absolutely. I haven't seen anything this year that's been absolutely egregious. There's been a couple of bullpen things where you're like, okay, why was that the move? Nothing immediately comes to mind, especially recently. Fans get mad at him for using Chapman. He has to use Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman's on the roster and he's a reliever, so you don't really have any choice. Once again, my beef with this, Adam's beef with this is I think it's the most valid. He just thinks Boone is not a good motivator and he doesn't get the most out of his players, which we will never know if it's true or not until, the doc comes out in 10 years about why this team sucked ass way more than it should have. It's hard to put a finger on it. But yeah, you have these post-game pressers where they're largely vanilla. You need a situation of this magnitude, where the Yankees are, they were, I think at that point, 23-32 since the middle of June, relinquished the lead on the AL, watching the AL East division, kind of the lead crumble a little bit. And then having to answer question after question. How do you feel about the lead? How do you feel about this team's playing? And now he finally loses it. And it takes that long for him to, get kind of pissed. And I think that is kind of the problem. We haven't seen a stretch, I don't think, from the Mets where it's been anywhere close to this egregious, where Buck kind of has to lose his cool. I don't know. You tell me.
No, Buck loses his cool whenever our pitchers get hit. They started doing like the Kill Bill thing. With
it's funny.
Every time a pitcher gets hit on SNY, and I'm like, okay, like Pete just got hit like near the head. Can we like make sure he's okay before we go like full Tarantino with the like SNY's production is fucking awesome, but like, is Pete okay? I've seen way too many Mets get hit in the face this year after last year when Pilar got hit in the nose.
Oh my God,
I'm just like, dude, between Pete and Lindor in the first National Series, both getting plunked in the face, I'm like, okay, like that's when he gets angry.
Yeah.
There was one post game, Nito was up hitting in the bottom of the ninth, I think with the tying run on second or something like that, and he didn't pinch hit Nito for or with like McNeil or something, and I don't remember who the reporter was, but Buck got grilled in the post game. It was like, so it was better to leave your catcher with an injured hand in batting than pinch hitting with somebody, and like, cool, like that's one of the big flubs of like 2 or 3, like I said, that Buck has done this year. And I'm not going to complain about bullpen management, especially with our bullpen. Our bullpen is hit or miss, 70% of the time outside of Edwin. But it's not like extremely unwatchable as a lot of Twitter wants to make it seem like. And I can't complain with bullpen management because that's baseball. But it's not like Louis Rojas last year, where Louis was a great guy. And I don't know anything. I want to ask you about how Louis is doing as the third base coach, right?
I think he's fine.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of emphasis has been put on Joey Cora this year because he just sends runners. Like, he doesn't know what a red light looks like. He couldn't pick it out of a crowd. It's just green, go, 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 no matter what. But, Louis last year, when the team wasn't winning, the team has likable players on it. I mean, obviously, Lindor was a huge focus of a lot of the Mets' mire last year. But Louis was taking over for a job that Beltran lost because of probably the biggest cheating scandal in professional. He was always going to be criticized and put under a microscope more than any other manager because he was taking over for Beltran. But I don't worry about Buck. Buck will put the players in the best position, and it's such a like ease off of my mind. I don't have to worry about anything. The team will go as far as it takes it because Buck will put it in the right position to succeed. With Boone, like, I think I don't know. It's hard to say, like, with a better manager, would the Yankees be better? It's baseball at the end of the day. You put the lineup card out.
Exactly.
Like, so at the start that they got at, it's like, does he have credit in the bank this year for the rest of the season? If, say you lose in the CS or you lose in the World Series or whatever like that, do you bring him back next year or is he gone no matter what?
I mean, he's probably staying. It's a 4-year contract. I mean, look, Aaron Boone, Yankees managers, right? They need to handle the media, which I think Boone does generally well. Although it's boring, you'd like to see a little bit more fire with a team that has greater expectations on it. But what's a manager supposed to do when you have the resources the Yankees do, or the Dodgers do, or the Mets do, or like the Red Sox do? All a manager needs to do is just not shit the bed in big moments, or just make better decisions when you're called upon than not. So that's where I think Boone needs to create a little bit more. That's where Boone needs to create more of a narrative and show that he can, manage a bullpen better in the postseason, put better lineups together in the postseason, motivate his players more or better in the postseason. And then I think that's where Yankee fans kind of like they're chanting "Fire Boone" at the stadium the other night. You think Aaron Boone's the problem with the New York Yankees? I mean, hey, discussion to have if you want to have it, but you don't think like everybody else sucking and Brian Cashman's terrible depth additions in the offseason and Brian Cashman's terrible decisions to call up or not call up certain people is what's making this team bad? Aaron Boone has only so much influence over what he's being given. And yes, it's a complicated conversation because, okay, here's what he's given. Theoretically, he should make the most out of it. Then again, for a team like the Yankees, he should be getting better things and better players and better stuff. And it doesn't seem like he's getting that. For example, demoting Ron Marinaccio, who was your hottest bullpen pitcher at the time, disadvantages Aaron Boone, however you want to put it. Acquiring Frankie Montas and trading Jordan Montgomery hurts Aaron Boone. Frankie Montas, you look at his stats, he is successful in the Oakland Coliseum and literally nowhere else. So you just essentially made the rotation worse, and you got rid of a left-handed pitcher, which is extremely valuable. You got rid of Joey Gallo, which, hey, great, but guess what? You acquired Andrew Benintendi, who is not a versatile defender, and then it forces you to maximize, theoretically, which happened up until a couple days ago, Aaron Hicks in the lineup, and then you have to make another drastic decision and promote Estevan Florial because Aaron Hicks is so bad. So a lot of the things, yes, we can blame Boone for, maybe not being a little bit more creative with bullpen usage in the postseason, or not motivating his team a little bit more in the postseason. But it falls on, I think, a lot of the roster construction and the players. Like, what do you want Aaron Boone to do in the playoff losses? Aroldis Chapman should simply get the outs, but he doesn't do it. So what do you want him to do? Not pitch Aroldis Chapman? Okay, great. Well, guess what? If the guy that he replaces Aroldis Chapman with doesn't succeed, then his ass is on the line. Then Aaron Boone's ass is literally over the fire, because then everyone's like, well, you had the closer, you had the best closer to do it, and you didn't do it. You brought in somebody else. And then, it's a complicated discussion, but I think at this point, maybe Aaron Boone is not the right manager for the resources and for what the front office can provide him. We could sit here and talk about the Yankees payroll all day. Oh, it's high. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Yeah, but the money's been allocated poorly. I love Giancarlo Stanton. You traded for Giancarlo Stanton when you didn't need Giancarlo Stanton. You needed pitching. You needed two pitchers. Instead, you acquired a $325 million contract for a guy who mostly plays DH and has mostly been injured throughout his Yankees tenure up until this point. His absence at this point has cratered the Yankee season. And that's another indictment on Brian Cashman, in my opinion. If Giancarlo Stanton is this integral to your lineup, then you didn't build a good enough lineup. A team should be – you look at a team like the Astros, right? And I'll talk about this until the cows come home. The Astros lost Carlos Correa and maybe have gotten better. The Astros lost Michael Brantley and are still fine. They managed to fill the gaps in whatever way possible. The Yankees lose one or two pieces of puzzle, and the entire fucking ship goes down. And whether that's you could blame a manager for that if the correct pieces were there, but it doesn't seem like the correct pieces are there. And to me, this season, Aaron Boone has not done enough bad to suggest that he needs to go. Maybe if he does go, Adam was telling me over the weekend, there are corners of Major League Baseball where Aaron Boone is fired, right? Like if look at Joe Girardi and the Phillies. Joe Girardi was given marquee free agent signing after marquee free agent signing after top prospect promotion after top prospect promotion and bullpen addition after bullpen addition, and he couldn't do anything with it. The Angels got off to a fast start and then witnessed a stretch that you would never believe, and the Angels said, you know what, Joe Madden, you're gone. Chris Woodward of the Rangers was unable to turn around this rebuild after being given a multitude of big free agent signings. And though the optics there are a little bit fishy because I think the Rangers still have a long way to go, it's clear that there is a certain point where other organizations get frustrated with the leadership in the dugout where they're saying, you know what, not worth our time. Now been 5 years with Aaron, this is the fifth year with Aaron Boone. The Yankees seem to be content with it. The Yankees don't like turnover like that. You kind of know that for a fact looking at their managerial history over the last couple of decades. But I don't know. I think it's a complicated conversation. I think that they probably should have signed Buck Showalter. And I think that's why heading into this Subway Series, we have Mets fans who are overzealous talking shit, which, you kind of can't blame them for. And you have the Yankees, and you want to talk about the Yankees not only putting Aaron Boone in a bad spot, they're putting me, the guy who has to do this podcast twice a week, in a bad spot. You want to know why? Because they fucking line up DeGrom. The Yankees line up Domingo Germán to start against the Mets twice against Max Scherzer, and you have the Mets lining up Max Scherzer and Jacob DeGrom for this series. And The Yankees and Mets do not have a rivalry. You will never convince me of it. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. They play 4 to 6 times a year. It's an inner city rivalry. It's a spectacle for MLB. It's a fun thing for fans to talk shit about and have a good time with and then be done with it. These games dictate nothing of either team's success. They dictate nothing of what the rest of the season is going to kind of or how the rest of the season is going to unfold. But you have a team like the Yankees who have, even when the Mets made the World Series, the Yankees still had the narrative of being the better team. They had won more recently. They hadn't had a losing record. They haven't had a losing record under Cashman. They haven't had a losing record since 94, I think, or 93. Like, I don't even remember what it was. But it's been an incredible track record where you're sitting there and you're like, the Yankees, whether you believe it or not, are statistically the better team. They've had more success. They've had a reason to be given that upper hand. And I think Steve Cohen, I don't think he's actively gunning for the Yankees. I think him and Buck understand the assignment. They know that we need to create buzz. We need to get our fans excited. We need to put pressure on the team that has kind of ran the city for so long. And we're going to do it at every opportunity we can. Citi Field packed those 2 nights when the Yankees are going. And now you line up DeGrom, Scherzer at Yankee Stadium. This puts Yankees fans in a bad position because then you have Mets fans that are like, oh, good luck this week. And it's like, yeah, good fucking luck to me. I don't know what we're going to do. I have no idea what's going to happen. Yankees are playing the worst stretch of baseball in for the last 2 months. And what do the Mets do? They counter with the 2 best starters in the National League to further the Mets aren't saying, oh, it's a good opportunity, maybe rest DeGrom. He threw 95 pitches in his next start. Maybe we'll bump him one. Or maybe, give Max Scherzer a breather. Maybe he needs one. I don't know. I haven't been watching a ton of Max Scherzer this year, but I know his last start against the Braves didn't entirely go well. Doesn't matter. Still lining up these 2 guys to face the Yankees. And now I have to deal with Mets fans telling me that my team sucks. And they're not wrong. But I also don't want to point at a Mets fan and be like, hey, man, talk to me about the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's why I hate internet sports arguments, especially when it comes to my teams or with Braves fans or Phillies. So I don't engage with any of it because it's just I'll just use my Twitter account to shout players' names into the nether. Whenever someone does something cool, I'm like, cool, Brett Beatty, home run. No likes, no retweets, nobody gives a shit, right? Because this is how I know how all arguments are going to go for my fan base online.
Yeah.
It's, oh, we own you. Oh, we took 3 of 4. We beat you. Where's your World Series? Were you alive in 1986? How about 1969? No? Okay, cool. How about watching your team win a World Series this, millennium? It's I don't need to prescribe to all that. And as far as Yankees fans, it's 27 rings, da-da-da-da-da. I'm it's why internet sports arguments are the most annoying thing for me on the internet. It's just not worth partaking in. Do I love that my team has the richest owner in baseball? To make a Premier League analogy, I feel like a Manchester City fan. My club, who has been largely irrelevant, but is my favorite team outside of 2 years in, the last century, and this year or this century where Carlos Beltran stared at a call strike 3 curveball from Adam Wainwright, and we lost to the death by contact Kansas City Royals with one of the best bullpens in MLB history. Those are the moments I have, right? Oh, I had Noah and Bumgarner dueling in a wild card game, which was awesome, and then we just lost because it was unlucky. But now I have the richest owner in baseball who bought the best starting pitcher on the market, who I watched dominate us for, a division rival for however many years. I have arguably top 3. I think Buck's the best manager in baseball right now. I have an awesome closer who went from 0 to hero in New York, which is very, very difficult to do. Compared to last year where the whole Javi Baez, Lindor, thumbs down thing dominated headlines for however long, right? I look at the series as it's not even Mets Yankees. I'm just cool, go in there, take 2, go home, and go into Wednesday with the day off and get ready for what's going to be, I think, the 3rd easiest September out of any team in the league. and like, let's just lock up this division. Let's go wire to wire, watch whatever we got to watch. I would love to see the Padres go out in the wild card round after all that talking, and then the Tatis stuff, getting Soto. Like, AJ Preller loves to blow up the farm and loves to extremely underachieve. And I don't prescribe to any of the stuff that's been going online where it's like you watch a bad bullpen outing from somebody and it's like, Billy Epler, why didn't you get that lefty reliever that was supposed to close game 6 of the NLCS when there's 2 men on? I'm like, you're planning for a far out scenario that you don't know is going to come. Like, for all I know, Max and Jake could shove 8 every single start in the postseason, and there's no issue at all. Or the team could implode. But Steve Cohen put out a 2 to 3 year timeline. Last year was a learning experience massively. The Javi Baez move, which is now the Trevor Williams move, because Trevor Williams has been great for us. It was, we thought we had something. 4 games up, and then the Braves just caught fire, and the Braves won the World Series. I'm like, cool, I got to root for the cheaters, or I got to root for the division rival. Who am I going to, like, can both teams lose? Can I watch Zach Wilson throw 4 interceptions to the Patriots? I can do that. But I don't want to watch this World Series right now. So, yeah, I'm looking at it as business, right? I'm just like, come in, take 2. The Yankees are down, and let's move on and play like I think the Dodgers are up next. So let's go play the Dodgers. I'm more excited about the Dodgers series than I am the Yankees series, where, like, every year for the past 10 years of my life, every time we won a Braves series, every time we won a Subway series or a Philly series, oh, it's our World Series. We did it. We've won like 8 World Series this year, apparently, according to Twitter. So, look, I'm excited for it. You guys are not. That's just the way of baseball. You're not really putting your best foot forward. Imagine if it was Cole versus Scherzer and Nestor versus DeGrom.
A great time.
That's primetime baseball, right?
Yeah.
But Domingo didn't pitch too bad the first Subway series around.
No, he was good. He was fine, but like, this is not how you prepare for a series against, when the media is going to be rocking, the media is going to have a lot to say, fans are going to have a lot to say. And that's kind of the problem, because there needs to be more of it just doesn't seem there's a willingness or urgency for the Yankees to kind of, to make things happen. So, like, when we faced you guys the first time, Herman was lined up to start against Scherzer, and everybody was doing the mental math, and they're like, well, if they trade for Luis Castillo, he could start on Wednesday versus Scherzer, and that would be sick. Yeah, that would be sick. That would be awesome, but it didn't happen. The Yankees, got outbid. It was what it was, but that's the kind of move that you make to kind of, get the gears going, get people excited. Not, there was a big argument on Twitter between a couple of folks. I don't need to name names, but it was essentially about the first Yankees-Mets series and how the Yankees didn't really try or put their best foot forward, like you kind of mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then certain Mets fans were like, oh, this is loser mentality and blah, blah, blah. Big argument, whatever. In the end, the Yankees fan perspective here is not wrong. It's not that the Yankees don't care about the Mets games. It's that the Yankees just don't do badass things anymore. They don't move the needle to, alter the pitching schedule to face the best, one of the best pitchers in the National League, which they could very well do. At that point, they came out of the break against the Astros and Orioles before facing the Mets. I don't know what could have kind of been done to alter the pitching schedule. It was tough because there was a doubleheader against the Astros right out of the break when they should have had a day off. That was because of the MLB, MLB lockout delaying the season. But it's hard to, convince Yankees fans that you're being serious when you trot out, you do. It was Domingo Germán and Jordan Montgomery against the Mets, and Jordan Montgomery, who I never really had a problem with. I thought he was a fine, okay pitcher. You just knew that wasn't going to be enough to beat the Mets because he constantly coughed up, razor thin leads, and the Yankees offense never really gave him the run support that he needed. And then you have Domingo Germán making his second start out of the break of the season against the Mets after getting creamed by the Astros. So you're like, what kind of vibes are we setting here? And then at this point, Stanton's out with the injury. Michael King just broke his elbow in Baltimore. So you lost all these key pieces. And instead of kind of trying to rally the troops for the Subway Series, once again, even though it's more of a spectacle and it's not a rivalry, it's not anything beyond serious, one of these games is nationally televised,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the Max Scherzer, Domingo Germán start. So you're putting Domingo Germán on national TV on your team that just suffered a number of devastating injuries that could alter the trajectory of the season, and it quite frankly has. And it's just the wrong way to go about it. And Yankee fans are sitting there, and some of them are like, yeah, we don't care. Like, yes, generally I don't care about – I only care about my division rivals and the Astros. I like winning baseball games. Yankee fans love winning baseball games, but you're not like looking at the calendar. You're like, oh, man, we got the Mets on August 22nd. Can't wait to kick their ass. It's like not really doing that, but at the same time, like maybe let's not put out a dog shit lineup and starting pitchers who clearly don't have the edge in an inner city battle with one of those games being nationally televised like that. And then the argument persists of like, oh, we weren't trying. And it's like, yeah, we weren't trying because we didn't give a shit. We weren't trying because the Yankees just don't do badass stuff anymore. And I think that's like the ethos behind it. So now, we're running back history. Montas has been awful for us. He had one okay start in Fenway. They ended up taking that one. But otherwise he's gotten rocked, and now he's at Yankee Stadium where the ballpark is small. So I don't know how he's going to fare. And you have Domingo Germán, who's been largely okay, but at this point you need starting pitching for the Yankees to be outright dominant. And it has to be even more outright dominant if the way the Yankees offense is going to be performing against Max Scherzer. Yankees offense, let's see here. Yankees offense has scored 4, 6, 8, scored 8 runs over their past 4 games. So that's terrible. And then they had that 1 8-run game against the Rays. And then before that, they had scored 1, 4, 6, 9 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, over 9 runs over 7 games. So this offense is bad right now, downright bad. And it's a vibe check. The Mets are serious about winning regardless of who the opponent is. And the Yankees are willing to, punt a series here and there. And that was the problem with 2021 too. There was a lot of series punting with Boone's lineups, which I think rightfully should have been taken into question. But now he just simply doesn't have the roster depth. And the trade deadline, look at the Mets right now. You want to talk about statements? The Mets trade deadline, we could talk about the trade deadline really quickly too. Everyone approached the trade deadline. There were only a handful of stars available, and the prices were all escalated. The Yankees and Mets did not want to pay a premium for all these other players that these other organizations were willing to kind of part with prospects number 1, 3, and 5 for. And I don't fault teams for not doing that, but if you're gonna go bargain shopping, you better fucking get it right. And the Yankees didn't get it right so far. Montas, not that great. Andrew Benintendi has had his worst slide of the season since joining the Yankees. Lou Trevino's actually been good for the Yankees, but Scott Efros, I think, who is good, is now dealing with shoulder soreness. And I just don't know if that was the guy to kind of replace the production lost from Michael King and Chad Green, guys who have pitched high leverage innings. Chad Green was pitching high leverage innings for years. And Michael King, who emerges arguably the most important bullpen weapon for the Yankees this year. So once again, 2 acquisitions there that didn't exactly replace the Yankees' needs. And then 2 other ones that were downgrade, were bargain hunting down that you could have avoided if you had made smarter moves in the offseason or if you were just more aggressive at the trade deadline. And then you have the Mets who go out and get Vogelbach and Tyler Naquin. Who else did they get? They got one other, right?
Darren Ruff. Darren Ruff's the
Ruff.
That's the DH platoon. Yeah.
Ruff DH platoon. Got exactly what they needed at the prices that they wanted, and all those guys are delivering. So there's another vibe check. The Yankees just making the wrong moves and the Mets making the right ones, and I think that kind of defines what how we could see divergent paths over these next couple months, and that's what pisses me off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at the first series, right? The first series could have very well been a sweep in your favor. I mean, on another day, maybe Rizzo doesn't swing at that 4th pitch, and it's 3-1, and he takes another pitch, and then that's a walk, and you walk around.
Or maybe
another
Judge
day,
makes contact with a pitch.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he does tend to make contact with a lot of pitches, doesn't he? But maybe on another day that ball leaves the park and Rizzo hits a grand slam on a 3-0 pitch.
Yeah.
On another day, whatever reason, putting David Peterson in as like, I wonder if
that
he's
was weird.
Setup. Yeah, I wonder if he's the missing piece here to connect us to Edwin Diaz. No, he is not. Tyler McGill will be. That is my bet. He'll be the guy in the bullpen to lock us down end of the season, postseason. But don't ever do that again. David Peterson giving up that 2-run bomb to Claver. I'm like every time something goes wrong for the Mets, it's just like PTS. It's like Vietnam in my head. I'm like, oh my God, everything's happening again. Everyone's going to get hurt. The season's over. And I just have to reset myself because that's not the team anymore. That's just not who this team is this year. But I mean, also who expected to get, what Clay Holmes was last year's trade deadline, one of last year's trade deadline acquisitions with Heaney and Gallo, right? So, I mean, Clay Holmes has been great this year, obviously.
And Rizzo last year.
Yeah, Rizzo too. But Rizzo was a rental and then you re-signed him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who could expect Matt Carpenter to have the season that he had?
You're right. But that's the thing. A player like Matt Carpenter shouldn't be defining the Yankees' success. A player like Matt Carpenter should be a luxury off the bench. Instead, he was so integral to what the Yankees were doing. He got injured, and then the team fell fucking apart. So that's where my problem comes in with the Yankees moves.
Give him the money that you're going to give Judge. Who knows? Maybe Matt Carpenter deserves that 8-year, $300 million deal. But yeah, I mean, look, again, I make another Premier League analogy for those who care about soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, right? It's like the Mets feel like Manchester City, we haven't won anything yet, right? Let us get that first World Series under our belt. If he wins a World Series this year or next year, cool, I'll think things are changing. And the media can hype up narratives of we're going to give Scherzer the 3-140, and maybe I think we give Jake 2-100 this offseason, whatever it is, right? Right, it'd be awesome. But the Yankees are United, and the Mets are kind of like City. United, as the Yankees, like you say, you don't really care about these games. United never cared about the Manchester derbies. They just didn't. And then City started winning everything, and the rivalry became hotter, right? All we know of the Subway Series is when we were kids, or when we were, our parents telling us stories of Piazza and Clemens going at it, or 2000, and 2000 is really the impetus of the Subway Series hitting super mainstream media, and New York kind of sports ethos with fans, right? So for me, whenever the Mets were awful, of course we're going to drum up yes, this is our World Series. I want to go there and beat the Yankees because we're not going to beat 90% of the other teams we're going to face, and it's going to be another failed season, and we'll watch the World Series with 2 other teams in it, and that'll be the end of it. But now we're good. We have an owner who wants to spend. We have a GM who went out and got pieces. Again, the whole robust market, lefty bullpen arm garbage. Again, if a lefty reliever comes in and gives up 3 runs in the NLCS or the World Series and we lose that game, sure, let's come back to your point. But for now, I'm not going to get on Epler because of everything else that he's done so far this season, which is kind of the thing with Boone. Where it's I won't get on Boone that much. I love watching the whole Savages in the box and we got to do better. It's right in front of us. I love that because it's good, fun, Twitter material. I look at Cashman, if I'm Cashman, and I don't want to make George or Hal or whatever type of comparisons, right, with the Steinbrenners, but you look like an idiot now, and I know hindsight's 2020, of giving Verlander 130. Just give him $30 million for the year. He's the Cy Young this year, no matter what. Verlander and Cole, at the pace that you were on, it's I look at our DH. If we had Vogelback and Ruff at the start of the year, we'd probably win 10 more games than we have right now. I love Dom. Dom had a hot spring. He was terrible, and he's in Syracuse now. J.D. Davis, he was fun in 2019. I future endeavored him last season. I was cool, pack your bags, you got to go. Same thing with Conforto. And I'll apologize for any Mets fan that ever thought Conforto was better than Aaron Judge, because that's just a ridiculous take and just hilarious to look back on, right? Never liked Conforto at all. Never was one of my guys.
Really?
But yeah, I've never could stand Conforto. Like, you want to be behind the guys on your team, and I'll root the guys who ever put on the stripes. I won't ever boo people, especially in a stadium. That's just not my MO when I'm at games. But I was just, I don't know, never looked at Conforto as like the guy. And especially watching Marte play right field for these 2/3, I'm like, oh my God, what an amazing feeling it is to have Starling Marte play right field for the Mets.
Another guy the Yankees should have signed. Versatile outfielder. All he cost was money. Would have displaced Aaron Hicks quickly. Would have not have had them. Could have allowed them to trade Joey Gallo sooner, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, a Mets move that was Yankees-esque.
Right. So I look at Cashman more as like, that's like the fall guy for me. If this season doesn't end up in a World Series, which we all thought it was going to, and it's baseball. I think I was listening to the episode like 2 weeks out of the All-Star break from you guys, and it was like, you guys are playing at an ungodly pace. Is this a regression to the mean? Is it just sliding back, or are we terrible again? Because I remember Yankees teams like 2-3 years ago where like, there were like injuries left and right. One guy would go down, the next guy would go down, and next thing you know, you're playing Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, whatever your AAA team is, right? And that's who starts. Same thing with the Mets. We had Janesh Fargas starting a game in center field last year, and legendary guy. But he that's just not what should be happening for a Steve Cohen-owned team. And granted, he's made all those changes this year. I look at Cashman, and I think he's the fall guy. And then I would assume that the GM Boone is just a victim of circumstance in that case, where the GM would want to bring in his own guy, unless it's like a guy who already likes Boone.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what people wanted. A lot of people don't like Cashman. I mean, here's the thing with Cashman. He's been here for a super long time, and the success has been minimal. He took over the team in '98 when the foundation was already built. Yes, he made some ancillary moves and some other shrewd decisions to kind of make the team even better, but he wasn't tasked with building a roster from the ground up. And then the one World Series that he had that truly had his fingerprint on it, he got the green light to spend $500 million at offseason and free agency. So look, championship, he won it, not really taking anything away from that, but there are circumstances here that prove that his success has been limited and that it's kind of time may have run its course here. Because Yankees just released their lineup, by the way. Gleyber Torres is not in it tonight.
Let me see if the Mets got the lineup out too.
Yeah, see if the Mets put theirs up. We'll do these as we wind down the pod here. But yeah, I think the imprint is on Cashman. The roster moves haven't been good enough. The aggression and free agency hasn't been there. The trade success, yes, you can point to the diamonds in the rough. Clay Holmes, holy shit, that's you gave up nothing and you have an all-star closer. And guess what? There are 7 other deals we can point to that didn't work out that were actually disastrous. They didn't utilize Lance Lynn. They didn't utilize Sonny Gray. They gave Aaron Hicks a 7-year extension when he had one good year of baseball. They gave Luis Severino a premature extension instead of letting his arbitration years play out, which is something they never do. Watching the captain right now, Cashman and the Yankees had a dispute with Jeter in his year of arbitration. Jeter asked for $3.2 million, or I'm sorry, the team Jeter asked for $5 million. The team filed at 3.2. This was after like the World Series winning season. And it created kind of a divide. And that's, Cashman started there, potentially creating that divide. But the way that it was kind of framed in the documentary. And now you look at the Judge situation. They tried to get the most money saved in the Aaron Judge situation. And now they're going to run into a problem where he's going to leave if the circumstances don't align as they should. Aaron Judge, in my opinion, has no reason to stay. Absolutely no reason to stay unless they're willing to pay him the most.
Where do you stand on that? Like, is it like a win World Series he'll stay, or like do you think he's leaving no matter what, or he's staying no matter what, as long as the front office does what it needs to do?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was staying no matter what, but now like you see how the front office treated you in the offseason, whether you're able to put that behind you or not is one thing. You see how the front office like clearly doesn't make the right moves to put you and the rest of your teammates in a position to succeed. And I just don't know why you would want to be in a place that's not willing to pay you the most money and a place that clearly is not above and beyond a winner. The difference with Jeter was, the Yankees were above and beyond winning at that point. And yes, Jeter was probably the reason that they were winning because of his influence. But you can at least stomach maybe getting underpaid or stomach having the team think you're worth less than you are if you're constantly winning. So I don't really know. I just know Cashman hasn't really oversaw a lot of these situations in a positive manner. I don't like the way he does business or like the front office or the organization at all does business over the last 12 or 13 years or so. But enough about that. Let's talk about this lineup tonight. Benintendi, Judge, Rizzo, LeMahieu, Donaldson, Oswaldo Cabrera, Trevino, Isaiah Connor Falefa, and Marwin Gonzalez is playing. Marwin Gonzalez, I think, heading into this weekend, had 10 or 12 at-bats since July 24th. So that should be really good, getting a guy in there who hasn't fucking played at all to face Max Scherzer. That seems like a great idea. Did the Mets release theirs?
No, but we can go over the lineup, and I could probably give you my projected lineup for what the Mets
Who do you think?
It should be Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso. That's the top four. That hasn't changed all year.
Okay.
And then Vogie, 5 DH. That's my guess. McNeil, I would move McNeil up. McNeil is red hot right now. I think he's batting like 320.
And he kicks the Yankees' ass.
He does. I think he's like a 3.9 F or B WAR right now. And I love watching Louis Guillorme play. Like, Louis awesome.
Yeah.
Gold glove defense. But McNeil, these past 10 or so games, has he's been unbelievable out there with the glove. And he's back to his old self this year. Watching Jeff McNeil last year was so painful. That's one of my guys. Conforto, not a guy. McNeil, one of my guys. But I would move him up. I do like the fact, and we haven't had this all year until we got Vogelback, there was no power protection behind Pete in this lineup.
Yeah.
0. So, if Nimmo, Marte, and Lindor weren't getting on base, Pete's coming up, nobody on. And Pete's the most intentionally walked batter this year in the league. So this lineup has been changed massively by just having Vogelback. But yeah, it should be McNeil. I would play Canna again. Canna obviously coming off the big 2-homer, 5 RBI day. Yeah. Buck's kind of gone with Naquin a bit. Naquin, a victim of the Platinum Sombrero in game 3 of the Phillies series, and then, or maybe game 2, and then game 3, I think he struck out 3 more times. He was getting up there with the major league record for strikeouts in a row. But Canna's got reverse splits, so I would still start Canna.
Okay.
And then I'd go Beatty, and then I would hope Nito is back. Maybe that's why the lineup isn't out yet, because they're waiting to activate Nito and send Michael Perez back down to AAA, or maybe DFA him. I don't know if he's got an option or not in his deal. But James McCann, no. Tomas Nido is our starting catcher, and I mean that goes down as one of the worst deals in Mets history. Is James McCann. He's great defensively.
Yeah,
He's there's no excuse for it, because I watch 1 through 8 take professional at bats every time, and work counts, and that's our MO this year. But watching James is painful. I know he's been hurt a bunch. Great behind the plate. Tomas Nido, the Nido King, is my guy. So I would assume it's Nido, and then, Beatty after Canna. Yeah, we'll see what Brett the Met can do in his first series.
Well, there you go, Yankees fans. You got our lineup out. You have projected lineup from Mets fan extraordinaire, Max Mallow. That's going to be it for today's podcast. Good luck to Domingo Germán tonight against Max Scherzer. Good luck to Frankie Montas on Tuesday night against Jacob deGrom. Good luck to the Yankees offense against 2 of the best pitchers that we'll see in our lifetime. I don't know if this Taijuan Walker thing is still going to change. Supposedly, if he was feeling better, he was going to pitch today or tomorrow, and deGrom would not. But Max is shaking his head no. Doesn't think that's going to be.
Either way, don't do it. Yeah.
Either way, exactly. Either way, don't do it. That's a Yankees move. That's a losing Yankees move that the Yankees would do just to preserve innings or some bullshit. But anyway, folks, that is it for today's edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Thank God we salvaged that Sunday win, so this pod didn't have to be as negative and awful as they've been for the past 2 months since mid-June. Grateful to have our guest Max on today, folks. Give him a round of applause. Max, by the way, where can the people find you on Twitter?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Obviously, Thomas said, a managing editor. My forte is gaming and esports, but diehard New York sports fan my entire life. No, thanks for having me on. Obviously, it was awesome filling in for Adam. I hope all the Yankees fans who tune in. I love listening to the show, so I watch more Yankees pods than I do Mets pods, which I find funny. But I'm just a huge baseball fan, so I hope all the Yankees fans didn't find me too annoying. But I also don't feel like I went there all that much, and I could have. If you got swept 4 games, I could have gone there. You know what I'm saying?
We're staring down the barrel of a 4-0 sweep here based on the pitching matchup. So you could have went there. You didn't.
I didn't. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. You can follow me on Twitter at oddslice. That's mostly what I use. I'm on Insta. I don't use it. Don't even try to find me there. No. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Strictly Twitter here. Don't mess with it. You can find me at Tommy's_takes. You can find the Yanks Go Yard podcast site at Yanks Go Yard FS. That's the official Twitter account. You can head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the content's at. We're churning it out for you. Negative, positive, mostly negative now, which is why, we're getting a lot of readers over the last couple of months. We enjoy it. We want to hear more of the discourse. We want to hear more of what you have to say. It's pretty good. Looks like Clark Schmidt is coming up. Holy shit. He has a locker at Yankee Stadium. Just dropped.
Wow.
So that's positive. Look at that. But anyway, folks, be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Reach out to us. Forget a mailbag question. Just talk to us. We want to have fun. Yankees Mets will be tonight and tomorrow. And then the Yankees head out for a West Coast road trip. A's, Angels, before returning back to the East Coast to take on the Rays. I'm praying for the best here. We don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully we have decent storylines to talk about on Thursday. Next time we talk to you, it'll be 2 p.m. Eastern live on YouTube. Enjoy the Subway Series, folks, and don't be unreasonable. Just enjoy it and have fun. We'll see you on Thursday.